It is, and it's actually intimidating because so what's exciting about it is that you do kind of have this template, if you will, of how to write the book because I've done five now. So it's like, okay, I know what frame's going to be this, and I know what information I need for here. So I kind of have like this template going. So it gets a little easier in that sense. But what's difficult about it, what I'm not gonna say what doesn't excite me, but what it can be challenging is making sure that it's consistent, but not the same, if you will. So switching it up just enough so people can feel like they have a different story. I always get really nervous because the series becomes a brand on its own. So when someone picks up an Andrew Learns About book, they're expecting something specific, something they've seen before. So I just don't want to disappoint someone, a buyer, and be like, oh man, this is all this book was. So, but no, it's exciting to just have that template. It's exciting to be able to, I want to become the Britannica of career books for kids. So just starting on this journey of possibly having 26 career books for kids is exciting.
Okay, welcome to the podcast, everyone. Living the next chapter, and I have a guest. Tiffany is here. We got a series of books to talk about today, and I am excited about this. And my guest is also a podcaster, so I get to nerd out on podcasting a little bit too, which I'm really excited about. Tiffany's with me today. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast. Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
For those that are watching on video, there is a wall. There's literally a library of books behind Tiffany here. You can open your own store. It's beautiful. I love it. They're well displayed. You got that merchandising thing down. Great. Looks awesome. So, okay, Tiffany, first of all, let's start off. I like doing this for everybody. Where are you in this great big world of ours?
I am in Houston, Texas.
Beautiful. And you guys doing okay weather-wise right now?
It's warm. It's warm and humid.
Is it warm?
Yeah. Okay. So
I have snow.
Oh, wow.
I have snow and ice. Last night, snow and ice.
Well, I appreciate that we have warmth and humidity.
Okay. All right. Okay. If you ever want to trade, let me know. I'll box up some snow. You can box up some heat, and we'll just send it back and forth or something.
That's right.
Cool. I love it. Okay. So you have a full-time job, and you are also an author and a podcaster and everything, all wrapped up in one. Your full-time job. Can you let everybody know what you do as your full-time gig?
I sure can. So as a trade, I'm a lawyer, but day to day, I am an equal opportunity advisor, which means I advise the institution that I work for on ways to comply with Title VII and Title IX. And those are the statutes that prohibit discrimination and harassment in employment and education. I'm trying to break it down.
Beautiful. That's great. Okay, that makes complete sense. I love that. What about that brings you to work every day? Why is that so important to you?
Right. So I feel like that's my little participation, if you will, in the whole civil rights. So Title VII, the title of the statute is the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so it kind of makes me feel like I'm being a part of this movement, that I'm carrying forward, especially we're recording this during Black History Month, that I'm carrying forward the torch that my people have started. And I just think it's very important to be fair and provide opportunity to all people, regardless of what we consider our differences. So race, gender, so on and so forth. I don't want to get into that too much, but so on and so forth. And so for me to be able to make sure that the institution I'm working for and the managers and the supervisors are treating everyone equally and fairly, I like it.
Awesome. It's a high powered job, high power as far as importance, and I think it's something that should be celebrated. So thank you for all the good work you do. That's great.
Thanks.
So, okay, on top of all that, as if that's not enough, you are also an author, and no, there's not just one book. There is many books in the series. Yeah. I would love to kind of unpack this for everybody. First of all, when you wrote your first book, Did you go into this thinking I'm going to write a series, or was your very first book a standalone book that just changed over time? How did this
Right.
happen?
I think it's both. I think the answer is both. So when I
Okay.
started with Andrew Learns About Actors, that was the first book I published or drafted and published. And I was doing it to just kind of do a bucket list item. I always knew or felt like I wanted to be a writer, and my husband and my mom always encouraged me to become a published author. And so when I moved forward with Andrew Learns About Actors, it was like, okay, yay, I did that. But at that time, I also had on my heart that I wanted to at least write about teachers, lawyers, and engineers. And so I started out as just like one book and we'll see where it goes. But again, like on my heart, I knew that it was going to be at least four books that I would write over a course of some time.
Nice. So, what is the big idea for each one in the series? Are you kind of going through what the job looks like so you can give kids an idea of what they can be when they grow up as adults?
That's exactly right. So it's Andrew's
Okay.
Career Day book series. So it's intended to make every day and any day a career day. I think Career Day is still in some elementary schools, but there's difficulty in trying to figure out diverse professions, like parents who work in different professions, and even the parents who go to present on their profession, they may not know exactly what to say to such a young crowd. So to be able to, my books break down the professions in a way that kids ages 5 to about 9 can understand. They rhyme. And so actors and teachers, it's pretty so actors does like, this is what an actor do, this is how you work hard, these are some downsides such as traveling and things like that, but overall you can be really great, like the people that's before you win awards, and you can be anything you want to be. That's the lasting impression in all of the Andrew books. You can be anything you want to be. So if it's an actor, a teacher, a lawyer, engineer, scientist, it's whatever, you can be it. And so lawyers does a really great job, engineers and scientists does a really great job in breaking down these complex technical professions in a way that a kid can understand. Because for me, growing up, I was told I was going to be a lawyer, and I did become a lawyer, and I was fine becoming a lawyer, and I am fine becoming a lawyer. But I didn't
Yeah.
know what lawyers did, and I don't think any kid know what lawyers do. And I don't know if a parent who's not a lawyer themselves understand what lawyers do other than what we see on TV. But what we see
Yeah.
on TV is limited to criminal law because that's dramatic. That's what's fun. So to be able to put out a product that says this is what a lawyer does, and these are avenues you can do alternative legal careers. You don't have to be in a courtroom. You don't have to do criminal law. There are so many different areas you can focus in, such as mine is employment discrimination. So
Mhm.
just exposing the parent and the child to the different things you can do with a law degree or as a lawyer, for example, is my book.
Nice. So, okay, so how many books in the series to date?
So to date, we have
To
5
date.
books, children
Okay.
picture books, and then one companion journal.
Okay. All right. And how much research goes into each one of these?
Right. So with actors, there was some research, but it was my first one. So of course I did some research, but as I started continuing on, the research became more prominent. So with teachers, I actually went to my Facebook and I was like, hey, if you had to tell a kid about teachers, what is something that stands out to you? And so got their feedback. With lawyers, I didn't have to do too much outside research, but I did want to at least
Hmm.
ask like my lawyer friends, like, is this how you would describe what you do? Things like that, just to make
Yeah.
sure that my vision and my world of being a lawyer was also broad enough to include other people's worlds. Engineers, I had to do substantial research because I knew nothing about engineers, but in doing my research, I learned that they're so awesome and so necessary. So it was like
Hmm.
really cool
Yeah.
doing that. I also hit up my friend, one of my best friends who's an engineer, and my cousin who's an engineer, and was like, hey, tell me, like, does this sound like your job? So I've done the research, but is the research accurate? And what I learned from there is that, similar to lawyers, they do different types of engineering. So what was important to them in their day to day was not important to the next one. So I'm like, okay, so just trying to again be broad enough but specific enough to capture the different types of engineering, but specific enough so you can understand what an engineer does generally. And then scientists, I had to do a lot of research again, and the research looks like everything is online now. So I'll just go online. I'll look at like job descriptions. I'll look at explain scientists to children or something like that, because there's a lot of work out there already that tries to do the things that I'm doing, just not in the way that I do it. And so just going out there and figuring out, how do you define scientists? What are some popular scientist jobs, such as biologists? How would I, so okay, I take the definition of biologist, but it's like on a college level. So how am I going to break
Yeah.
that down to a child so they can kind of understand what a biologist does, the essence of a biologist, and make it rhyme? So a lot of research goes into it, especially as I get more technical in the careers. But I really enjoy it, and I think that's part of being a lawyer, because I'm able to research and analyze and synthesize information.
Nice. And so how do you select like the next one in the series? Do you have like a plan, or are you just picking jobs that interest you and you're like, I want to know about this. I'm going to write a book.
So with actors, that came about because me and my son both love TV. We love reading, and he was bouncing around with the TV character, and it just kind of made me think, like, does he understand the difference between an actor and the character that is played by the actor? So that's how that one came about. The teachers one came about because my whole entire family essentially are educators, but specifically my mom and my husband are educators. So and we were in the middle of the pandemic, and they were doing a lot of pivoting, and so I wanted to kind of put out like a little ode to them about how important teachers are and how children can aspire to become teachers, because I don't think they really connect that as a child or a student. Lawyers, of course, that was inspired by me, and how would I tell my son about what lawyers do? And then engineers, I was just thinking about what my family members do, like who, what else do they do other than being a teacher? And so engineers came to mind. And then scientists was inspired by my son, who swears he's going to be a paleontologist one day. And so I was like, I could write about paleontologists, or I could write about scientists. And so I decided to do it a little bit broader and do scientists. But of course, the story starts off with Andrew declaring he's going to be a paleontologist. So that's how that one came about.
Okay. I love it. So what excites you about writing a series rather than just a standalone book? It must be different to write a series.
It is, and it's actually intimidating because so what's exciting about it is that you do kind of have this template, if you will, of how to write the book, because I've done five now. So it's like, okay, I know what frame's going to be this, and I know what information I need for here. So I kind of have like this template going. So it gets a little easier in that sense. But what's difficult about it, what I'm not gonna say what doesn't excite me, but what can be challenging is making sure that it's consistent, but not the same, if you will. So switching it up just enough so people can feel like they have a different story. I always get really nervous because the series becomes a brand on its own. So when someone
Yeah.
picks up an Andrew Learns About book, they're expecting something specific, something they've seen before. So I just don't want to disappoint someone, a buyer, and be like, oh man, this is all this book was. So, but no, it's
Yeah.
exciting to just have that template. It's exciting to be able to. I want to become the Britannica of career books for kids. So just starting on this journey of possibly having 26 career books for kids is exciting.
Wow, that's a big goal. I love that. 26. That would be,
At least.
yeah, there you go. Right. Okay. What about an illustrator? Do you want to have all these
Mhm.
books have the same look and feel? Right.
Yeah.
So
So
how
I
did you
do
land
have
on
the
an
same.
illustrator?
Right. So I went to one of those gig sites and did a lot of research, and I liked her crayon feel, or at least to me, it's a crayon feel. I think others would agree too. Yeah. So like her medium is kind of like crayon, and so I like that. And she was really helpful because she had done children books before, so she was able to kind of put everything together for me. So not only does she do my illustrations, but she does the design. She does the typesetting, so she puts the words on the pages. She formats it so I can upload it for printing and things of that nature. So she was very helpful
Wow.
to me. So I had a
Yeah.
good find, and so I've told her from the jump, like, hey, I might be making more books, so I would want us to continue this relationship. And so we have continued it for 5 books. Now, hopefully, if I ever continue on to 26, 20, whatever, she's still
Yeah.
around and can help me. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for an author that's listening to our conversation and they're thinking about doing a series, they're going to reach out
Mhm.
to an illustrator. Any words of
Yeah.
wisdom that you can offer to an author about
Oh, yeah.
negotiating with an illustrator? Or because this is a long-term relationship, this isn't a one-time shot deal, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I'm curious, without going into any type of numbers, I'm not interested in that part, but
Right, right, right.
like, would an illustrator be part of the sale for each book, or is it a one fee for 26 books, or is it by book? I have no idea how this even
Right.
works. Do you have any wisdom
That's a
you can
great
share?
question. So you could set it up any of those ways that you suggested,
Okay.
but I would caution against doing sell by each book because that means you have to come up with like the royalty split. And when you do children picture books, your royalty is already so low. Like to have to split that little royalty is just, it's not doable and it's just too much hassle. So what I would suggest is that you have a contract for the illustrations and a contract to the right to the illustrations. So you can do merchandise like you might see behind me if you're on
Yeah.
video, and
Yeah.
things of that nature. So you want to pay per illustration and pay for commercial use of the illustration and pay for possibly the copyright to the illustration. And so that's going to be set out in the agreement before. So I pay her
Yeah.
for each of my illustrations.
Okay.
You can
Yeah,
pay
because
by
if you wanted
hour
to
as
come up
well. Yeah.
by hour, okay. Yeah.
You
Because
can
if
pay
you
them by
wanted to do
hour as
like a
well.
shirt, yeah, if you want to do
Yeah,
like shirts or whatever, some merch to go with the book, you want to have
yeah,
access to all the artwork, right? Okay. Makes sense.
yes, that's right.
That's great. And then as far as finding a good illustrator, do you have a few examples of where people might be able to go and look for somebody?
Sure. So you can always go on social media and follow hashtag like children book illustrator, and so that will come up with some. But what I particularly like, and this is up for debate, not for between us, but anyone who's listening,
Yeah.
I particularly like to go to the gig sites, which is Fiverr or Upwork, because
Yeah.
they have where one they have a whole bunch of illustrators that you can choose from in different price ranges, so you can always find someone to do the work that you want because you have such a variety. They have different skill levels, they have different mediums that they work with. So like the options are endless, but you still have to do your due diligence. Like you have to ask them for a portfolio or
Okay.
have to read through their reviews and samples to see like are they putting out the work that they say they do. So you do have to still do your research and due diligence. But I like going to the gig sites because not only do they have the availability of all these different artists, but they also put my money in escrow. So I don't pay or lose my money until I approve my work. And they also have like these built in timelines where if they don't meet the deadline, then you can negotiate an extension or you can end it, you know? So I like the protection of my money first and foremost.
Yeah.
And so that's what I particularly like about gig sites. But yeah, you can find illustrators outside of gig sites. You can go to Behance, BEHANCE.net. And find an illustrator there. Of course, you'll have to come up with your own contracts and things and just pray that nothing is awry. But again, we're social media and follow those hashtags.
Nice. Is there a question that I should ask a potential illustrator that is really important from your perspective?
One, see their other work.
Yeah.
And two, I would probably ask them, well, when I get to illustrators, let me think. I always want to see their work, and their work usually speaks to me on whether I want to move forward. Um, for my Andrew books, I do include historical figures on at least one page. So to have them be able to draw and portrait, I guess, or replicate that, that's important for me. Some illustrators are not versed in drawing black characters. So for me, having, you might want to ask, hey, can you draw a black character? Can I see your black character? I know I have author friends who have to have that conversation of, hey, do you draw black characters? Because it's a little different. Um, Another thing you might want to ask, you want to know about the turnaround time, how long it's going to take you to do it. And of course, you want to definitely make sure you ask or include the commercial use to your illustrations.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So before we go to the end here, like as far as finding all your information and finding the books, what's the best place to send people? Are we going to go to your website, or are we looking on like an Amazon, or where would you like people to go to find your books?
Sure. So the company is Sugar Cookie Books. And so it's just easy to go to sugarcookiebooks.com and it'll take you wherever you need to go. Sugarcookiebooks.com. Also, social media, I'm on there, of course. So Instagram, Facebook is at Sugar Cookie Books. I'm on Pinterest at Sugar Cookie Books. And I'm on Teacher Pay Teachers, Sugar Cookie Books. So.
Can you? Okay, I have to ask. Sugar Cookie Books. Where did the name come from?
Yay! So, when I was starting out on my first book, my husband apparently had more vision for what I was doing than I did. So he was like, "You need to set up a publishing company and do all this." And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just doing a book." But anyway, I listened to him. Good for me. And I was like, "Okay, I'll set up a publishing imprint." And so then he was like, "You're gonna have to trademark it and do all." I'm like, "I'm just doing one book." But I listened to him and started thinking. I got my little trademark book for dummies, and I looked through it and I was like, "How do you even go about trademarking a company name if I wanted to do it?" And so there's of course steps to it, and you have to follow the requirements. But one of them is you have to have a unique name first and foremost. And so I was looking at the examples that they gave, and one of the examples is Apple's computers. It's like Apple is not a unique name in itself, but referring to a computer as an Apple
Yeah.
is unique. And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let me think. And I was thinking about like snicker. I don't know why cookies came to mind, but I thought about like snickerdoodle, and I was like, it doesn't have like a good little ring. Then I was like, well, chocolate chip is really popular. It is trusted. It's everywhere. It's a classic, and I'm like, that's kind of like what I
Yeah.
want my company to stand for. But I'm not a chocolate chip girl, so I was like, I'm gonna go with the other one, sugar cookie, and that's how Sugar Cookie
Nice.
Books came to be.
I love it. Okay, before I let you go, I can't let you go without talking about your podcast quick before we're done here. What is the name of your podcast? And tell me about it. I just need to know more.
Sure. So I do have a podcast. It is called Spoiler Alert with Tiff O and Ricky. Ricky is one of my best friends. We've been friends for over 20 years, and we both love talking about TV and movies. And so we would sit on the phone in the car. Well, I will be traveling most of the time. Sitting on the phone talking about, girl, did you watch This Is Us? Did you watch Queen Sugar? Did you watch what have you? And I just really enjoyed the way our conversation, yeah, I enjoyed our conversations. So I thought other people would too, because it's just a real relaxed homegirl approach to watching TV, almost like if we were on the couch watching TV together. And
Yeah.
so that is the podcast. We do a review and just commentary of the hottest shows at the time. Um, and yeah, that's that. One of our popular shows was the one we did on. Oh man, I think I forgot the name of it. I did, but
That's
but it was a movie and it was really a popular show. So I was like, oh look at us. We've had,
good.
because we do Queen Sugar, or were doing Queen Sugar before it ended, Ava DuVernay, who's the creator, director, and writer of Queen Sugar, would like our podcast post, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, I think I died." So
It's amazing, right? Who listens to this, right? You just never
Yeah.
know.
Hey, we're like, and Ava's like really close to Oprah. So we will always joke, like, let's get our clothes ready to go on the Oprah show. It's almost time.
There you go. I love it. That's amazing. Okay, so we'll have links. We'll have links to everything we've talked about in the show notes. And you're listening to a podcast right now, and you're like, you know what? I need more Tiffany, and you can do that. You can go right from here, right to Tiffany's podcast, and start listening right from the beginning. Right? That's where they should start.
Yeah, they can start from the beginning, or
Of course,
actually, they can start wherever. If
wherever
they
they want.
have a particular show that they watched that we also watched, and they want to hear our take on it, then they can start with that. Or a movie that we've done, they can start with that. It's whatever. It's up to them.
Awesome. Okay, so Andrew Learns About is the series. You
Hmm.
have to go check it out, and these are going to be great books for your kids. You can read them at bedtime together. You can learn together as a family. Tiffany, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for making time for me in a very busy day. I really do appreciate the fact that you have time. And again, great display behind you. Looking forward to the next one that's coming in the series. Keep going. Don't stop. And
Okay.
thank you for sharing your time with us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for subscribing and following. And you're listening this far in the podcast, so you are my best friend. I'm sorry, but you are now my best friend. So welcome. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. LivingTheNextChapter.com has a link on the website to our Facebook group. Are you on Facebook? Probably. You can go there and you can actually interact with our guests. You can talk to them. You can hear more about their journey, about their books. You can speak to them directly. You don't need me. You can come right over to livingthenextchapter.com, click on our Facebook, link to our community. You can talk to other listeners of the podcast from around the world who are on Facebook. And, again, speak with our guests. Don't you want to speak to the guests you just heard from? Yeah, you can do that on Living the Next Chapter. Go over there. There's links to our Facebook group, and you're welcome to join. Thanks for listening.